Hello guys, bersama saya lagi dalam Alright Nopo Channel terkini sahabat semua. Seperti mana yang anda tahu, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim kini sedang membuat lawatan kerja di negara India. Dan trending di media sosial ketika ini bagaimana sambutan penghormatan yang diberikan kepada Perdana Menteri daripada Perdana Menteri India dan pemimpin-pemimpin di negara India itu adalah satu-satu yang sangat mengejutkan kita. Seperti mereka menyambut kepulangan anak yang baru habis belajar daripada luar negara, sahabat semua. Begitulah umpamanya penghormatan kedatangan Perdana Menteri kita bersama dengan delegasi menteri-menteri, pegawai-pegawai negara kita dari Malaysia ke India. Jadi sahabat semua, hari ini ramai juga pemimpin dunia yang menantikan Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim untuk mendengar apabila Datuk Seri ingin menyampaikan syarahan beliau pada malam semalam. Jadi tanpa membuang masa, izinkan saya untuk membawakan anda dan juga menonton bersama video ini bersama-sama dengan saya. Jadi tanpa membuang masa, ayo kita tonton video ini.
I'm here on the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, and I must, on behalf of my delegation, thank him and the Indian government for the hospitality and also the attitude, general attitude beyond diplomacy, to consider us as great friends and to engage in a series of discussions covering multifaceted aspects from defense to digital to trade and investments, food security, and that could only happen not only through normal diplomatic channels but through friendship and trust. Now, India is, to me, it remains an enigma. I've been here umpteen times as a student leader, and I told Suman Bakshi that I had the occasion, even as a young student leader, to have a session with Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, 9 youth leaders from Asia, confronting her a number of issues, and observe her candor and motherly attitude to deal with some very pernicious questions raised by young leaders on the issue of corruption, on the issue of racism, on the issue of religious bigotry, and a number of issues. And so that shows somewhat a familiarity with India. I was at the ICWA Kendra some years back. No, not some years back, some decades back. But it remains an enigma. This is a country that produced Sri Aurobindo, an outstanding intellect. Leaders like Gandhi ji, which is of course unique in his battle for freedom, for justice, for humanity. You have intellectual giants who became leaders in their own countries, Jawaharlal Nehru and Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And so how do I then compare myself listening to your kind remarks and to these great sages and towering intellectuals or intellectual luminaries? So may I humbly begin by acknowledging the fact that you, India, have produced great sages and leaders, and considered by many of us as a beacon of hope and democracy in the region. While not denying the fact that you also have to grapple with some serious issues of affecting the minorities or religious sentiments, but our hope is that India continue to play its role, rightful role, because I mentioned to Prime Minister Modi, these are the years when Nehru and Chow En-lai and Sukarno and Nyerere who are all there standing up for the global south against colonialism and imperialism, and to struggle to ensure that we recognize what humanity is all about, what freedom is all about, and what dignity of men and women. So that is the global south that we envisage. And I think this opportunity to speak at Sapru House, you have also, as you mentioned, hosted notable architects of foreign policy. I'm not one of them, unfortunately, but struggling to try to emulate the great successes of the past. And more so because when I mention Nehru, I must mention Tunku Abdul Rahman, the father of Malaysian independence. And they became friends, great friends at that. Not only in terms of bilateral ties, which remain strong and unmoved, but sharing a common zeal for democracy and freedom. Today, in this era of uncertainty, we look back to our leaders for their ideas and efforts in shaping norms that have reverberated throughout the region and resonate with us now more than ever. Whither do we go, and what shall be our endeavor? That's a question in the Trees for Destiny, which was again mentioned or referred to, not this particular question, but by Prime Minister Modi in his speech. Now, that question was succinctly answered in dealing with the issue of the way forward. Nehru answered, to bring freedom and opportunity to the common man, to the peasants and workers of India, to fight and end poverty and ignorance and diseases, to build up a prosperous, democratic and progressive nation, and to create social, economic and political institutions which we will ensure justice and fullness of life to every man and woman. A very powerful, empathic message to India and democratic nations throughout the world. In a world fraught with challenges and uncertainties, it is an unwavering commitment to these principles that will guide us towards a brighter, more just tomorrow. The legacy of the Founding Fathers is not merely a testament to their time, but a timeless beacon, urging us to dream, to strive, and to forge ahead with undaunted courage and unshakable resolve. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, keeping the theme of my lecture in mind, let me begin with the assertion that the Global South represents the reclaiming of a voice that can no longer be ignored in the emerging international order. As a driver of global prosperity, the Global South totally accounts roughly 40% of world GDP and around 85% of the world's population. By 2030, 3 of the 4 largest economies will be from the Global South, one of them, of course, being India. Now, the resurgence of Global South narratives and the desire for greater participation in the international system has pushed regional powers to the forefront, with opportunities to exert agency and shape the discourse around what a Global South agenda should look like. Indeed, at this geopolitical juncture, where strategic uncertainties and anxieties are commonplace, anchoring ourselves to pushing a common collective good with level playing fields for all should be the ultimate goal of a Global South agenda. An empowered Global South, as I see, is inevitable. There are now real opportunities to push the envelope on addressing global challenges on terms that we can set in consultation with one another. And this, of course, on pressing issues that we all still finding our footing on: climate change, supply chain resilience, food security, and artificial intelligence governance. On the part of Malaysia, we believe that the rise of Global South unites us in all our diversity, differences, and discretions. The Global South, despite overwhelmingly negative connotations from detractors, is not meant to exclude the Global North. In fact, Global South mobilization is predicated on the acceptance of our growing agency and the desire to work together as equals within our complex strategic context. And to me, India has welcomed this reality with grace. For vision, and most importantly, a plan. India's excellent G20 chairmanship last year and the inaugural Voice of Global South Summit made it amply clear that India is prepared to shape the Global South agenda with its partners. In fact, Malaysia also shares the pride of the African Union's inclusion into the G20 and is deeply cognizant of the immense value these partners and regions bring to the table. While we have made significant strides in our bilateral cooperation, there's still much room for further strengthening. It was with that in mind that Prime Minister Modi and I earlier today agreed to elevate our ties to comprehensive strategic partnership. This will give due recognition to our shared priorities of connectivity, sustainable economic growth, green development, technological transformation, and delivery of public goods. As we look forward to closer ties between our two countries, it will do us good to take stock of the progress we have made in recent years, and nowhere is this more evident than in the realm of trade. Today, trade between Malaysia and India stands at $16.5 billion, expanding, bolstered by an impressive compounded annual growth rate of 8.5% in the last 2 decades. And more convincing in the last quarter. This growth trajectory is not just a statistic, but a testament to the deepening economic linkages facilitated by the framework such as the Malaysia-India Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement and the ASEAN-India Free Trade Agreement. Moreover, the evolution of trade composing between our nations, trade composition between our nations, with our mirrors the broader economic transformations within Malaysia and India. 2 decades ago, palm oil and petroleum products dominated Malaysia's export to India, making up nearly 2/3 of the total. However, as Malaysia's economy has diversified, so too has our trade portfolio. Today, these primary commodities account for just 1/3 of exports to India, with electrical and electronic products becoming key export items. This shift underscores Malaysia's transition towards higher value-added industries. Clearly, both Malaysia and India have come a long way in our economic partnership. The transformation in trade dynamics is not just reflective of our growing economic capabilities, but also of the strategic agreements that have underpinned this growth. With such foundational elements of our trade relationship, the road ahead is highly promising, offering vast opportunities for further economic collaboration and growth. I do not exaggerate when I say that stronger Malaysia-India ties are consequential to a better connected global South. As one of the best connected Southeast Asian countries to India by air, Malaysia is strategically positioned to encourage seamless movement between our regions for business, education, and tourism. We must include tourism, otherwise the Minister of Tourism would object. We are also cognizant of India's efforts at connecting to Southeast Asia by road and look forward to early operationalization of the India-Myanmar Thailand trilateral highway, which will be of value to Malaysia as well. In addition, our joint membership of the Indian Ocean Rim Association gives us the opportunity to push for changes, for change and development. I must at this time commend India for leading the drafting of the IORA's outlook on the Indo-Pacific, which I'm sure will contextualize and put our efforts in perspective. On the topic of international cooperation, we must not forget how a defining feature of the international system at this time is minilateralism. Malaysia believes that minilateral mechanisms ultimately work towards the delivery of public goods to benefit our people and raise the standards of living. In that vein, Malaysia will not shy away from exercising agency and participating in these arrangements as we see it. Our recent application to join BRICS is a fine example. By participating in BRICS, we aim to diversify our economic diplomacy efforts and enhance our collaboration with member countries through shared initiatives and strategic partnership. India's distinct and influential role within BRICS is of particular importance, as we recognize that our strong bilateral ties will add significant value to the dynamics of the grouping. We are confident that our entry into this group will not only strengthen our economic linkages with India, but also open new avenues for cooperation across a broader spectrum of industries and policy areas. Excellencies, friends and colleagues, let me now turn my attention to our regional and sub-regional mechanism, which will be instrumental in shaping the Global South agenda. As upcoming ASEAN chair, Malaysia will not only focus on the strengthening existing ASEAN mechanisms and institutions and making them fit for the purpose, but also find synergies with other frameworks that are crucial for regional development and prosperity. In this context, India, as one of ASEAN's long-standing dialogue partners, plays a pivotal role. The ASEAN-India partnership has been instrumental in fostering economic growth, security cooperation, and cultural exchange across the region. We see great potential in deepening this collaboration, particularly as we seek to align ASEAN's priorities with broader initiatives that support the Global South. By working closely with India and other dialogue partners, we can ensure that ASEAN remains at the forefront of regional integration and continue to be a driving force for sustainable development in the region. Our centrality is pivotal because we can now engage with India, with China, with the United States and Europe that will strengthen not only ASEAN, but the trading, investments, and diplomatic skills and also engagements with other parts of the world. Now, secondly, enhanced engagement between ASEAN and the Bay of Bengal initiative for multi-sectoral technical and economic cooperation will not only connect our regions but shed light on challenges, needs, and priorities which are not always considered mainstream. These challenges, which may be rooted in the very geography that shapes our landscapes, the unique demographics that define our populations, or the particular resources that sustain our livelihood, are the silent yet potent forces that must be acknowledged and addressed. In this endeavor, the essence of the Global South agenda must be nothing less than an intrinsic mobilization, one that is firmly anchored on our shared norms and values, and which honors the extraordinary diversity that characterize the Global South. I made a visit to India in an unprecedented time. Competition, rivalry, and intense geopolitical flux is now status quo. We live and breathe in interregnum, waiting for life as we know it to stabilize and revert to a phase we are familiar with. But the harsh reality is that institutions and structures that we have known to function and thrive with can no longer respond effectively to the challenges of the day. India, as a rising power, has showed remarkable resilience and acumen in navigating the geopolitical uncertainties we find ourselves in today. India's unique multi-aligned approach, which requires an astute and adept compartmentalization of priorities and challenges, is worth learning from, especially from the vantage point of Southeast Asian country at the heart of the emerging Indo-Pacific order. Let me pause and reiterate that the relationship between India and Malaysia is forged on the anvil of robust, vibrant, and animated trade, commercial, and cultural ties. But above all, fortified through shared experiences, a common goal, and thriving on the familial bonds of kinship going back centuries. Our ties possess a formidable power to shape perceptions, a unique dynamic testifying to the extraordinary nature of our connection, one that transcends mere diplomacy and touches the very core of our shared existence. Whereas the Atlantic Ocean must bear the dark history of imperial expansion, gruesome colonialism, and chattel slavery, and the Pacific Ocean world is ready with tensions and at the epicenter of the renewal of the Cold War. Here in the Indian Ocean world, we can create a stable and resilient backbone for the global economy. We must say no to the naysayers who contend that multiculturalism, inclusivism, and shared prosperity are mere constructs of convenience that are impossible of fulfillment because, as they say, man is an economic animal driven by the instinct of self-preservation and self-aggrandizement. We reject such a notion, one that bears the wretched order of isolationism and venerates the false gods of exclusivism and protectionism, because we believe that no man is an island and no one people can prosper truly without the help and cooperation of others. Nevertheless, we cannot be blind to our innate and deep-rooted connections with the Pacific and Atlantic links. We are not in the business of building doors, let alone walls, but in fortifying the bridges that bind. The immortal words of Mahatma Gandhi come to mind. Hate the sin and not the sinner is a precept which, though easy enough to understand, is rarely practical or rarely practiced. And that's why the poison of hatred spreads in the world. Looming over us is the menacing threat of extremism in all its myriads, forms, and ill will. rancor, and animosity that are bred from absolute dogmas. Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Jains, Jews, Christians, Buddhists. That reminds me in the old Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Nasara, Avarao, I think this is Raj Kapoor, whatever. We share sources of knowledge, and in that common treasury of memories, we vindicate our shared values of truth, of ethics, of humanity, and our innate desire for peace. We must stand against interreligious violence, from the aggressions we see every day to the politics of dispossession that violently uproots and displaces millions of Palestinians, and the genocide that continue to unleash the slaughter of thousands of innocent lives. We can all agree, regardless of our backgrounds, that this is certainly neither our higher calling nor the higher purpose of the human race, to put down and destroy one another. Friends and colleagues, the road we stand upon will not run smooth. We are poised at the cusp of formidable changes, movements in the world that set it spinning slightly differently with each circumrotation. And yes, there will always be hazards ahead, hidden in the shadows. But we must resolve to be fearless in facing them, remembering that true greatness lies not in avoiding the storms of life, but in weathering them with unwavering resolve. In our tireless pursuit of a harmonious and just world, where peace reigns and equanimity is our guiding star, we are reminded of the profound wisdom of the illustrious Rabindranath Tagore. His words echo through the corridors of time, urging us to embrace not the comforts of safety, but the unyielding courage to confront adversity headlong. Let me not pray to be sheltered from dangers, but to be fearless in facing them. The great Tagore. In this heaven for architects of thought, where the very air thrums with the energy of that unceasing task which is nation building, let us resolve to forge a future together that's illuminated by the brilliance of our shared endeavors, with the unwavering commitment to the ideals that define us. Thank you.
Alright, itu dia sahabat semua, satu ucapan yang begitu padu ya daripada ucapan syarahan Perdana Menteri kita yang begitu baik sekali. Jadi sebenarnya apa yang cuba disampaikan oleh Datuk Seri sini dalam syarahannya yang bertajuk Towards a Rising Global South, menyinggung berkaitan dengan sasaran Malaysia untuk mempelbagaikan usaha, diplomasi ekonomi menerusi penyertaan dalam platform antara kerajaan seperti BRICS, selain meningkatkan kerjasama melalui inisiatif bersama dan perkongsian strategik. Itu antara kenyataan Perdana Menteri dan juga khususnya juga perjuangan yang tidak dilupakan, yaitu untuk terus memperjuangkan ya hal kemanusiaan ya rakyat Gaza di Palestin. Terbaik sahabat semua, itu antara kenyataan padu mantap Perdana Menteri kita. Kita harapkan ya mendapat sambutan yang menggalakkan dari negara ini, negara luar, khususnya untuk melihat negara kita yang semakin maju, berkembang, dan mereka juga tertarik ya untuk melabur ke dalam negara kita. Kita terbaik. Jadi terima kasih. Izinkan saya untuk mengundurkan diri, dan seperti biasa peribahasa mengatakan, apapun kangkap dua ton keinginan. Dalam bahasa Melayunya, tepuk dada, tanya selera. Sekian jadi daripada Alright Nampak Channel. Saya kita berjumpa lagi. Bye-bye.